On this week's episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored, we're going to be tackling a very tough topic, which is breast implant illness, also known as BII. I'm joined with two fantastic women who are going to help us tackle all things related to silicone and silicone implants. You definitely want to tune in and hear what we have to say. Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm Dr. Roddy Raban, and on this episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored, we're going to be talking about breast implant illness, also known as BII, and all the controversy related around silicone breast implants. And I think it's such a huge topic. It's so relevant, and we're so lucky because on this episode, we're going to be joined by two dynamic women, both of which have personal experience with silicone implants. And I'm always excited about our episodes, but this one I'm exceptionally excited about because it's seldom that you're going to be talking about a subject that's so current, it's so relevant and so controversial, and then have the opportunity to have people who are living their lives that are willing to contribute and share information. So thank you so much, ladies. We're joined with Courtney and Jen, and both of which know a little about this subject. So let's dive in. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define the subject matter for people who are listening. So breast implants, have so many benefits. Breast implants have so many benefits. If you go on places like Real Self and you look at the conversation in terms of satisfactory rate, right? They have these things where they write what percentage of people are satisfied with their nose job, what percentage of people are satisfied with their tummy tucks. When it comes to breast implants, it's well over 95%. So we definitely know that the overwhelming majority of women who have breast implants are happy with the decisions they make. But from the very beginning, breast implants have had some kind of controversy related to them from the inception. And nothing has changed because there is a subset of women in whom breast implants have created issues. And I'm not talking about the issues that are associated with your traditional complications like capsular contracture, bottoming out, etc. I'm talking about a subset of women who believe that the breast implants have made them ill, made them sick. And as a result, we have had a lot of debate amongst the medical community as well as the patient community regarding the whether or not breast implants should exist. So what happens is there's this group of individuals who have breast implants, even though the overwhelming majority have found the implants to be beneficial, and they believe the breast implants are giving them an illness which we have collectively now called BII, breast implant illness. And the symptoms are quite broad, and they vary from things like fatigue and memory loss and joint pain, etc. And as a result, this ongoing debate exists because we as a medical community are not sure. At the same time, we have a lot of people who have benefits. So let's dive in here. I'm joined with Courtney, who is actually a patient of mine, who I before Courtney wasn't sure I understood, or I don't want to say I believe, but I had good clarity that even BII existed. And I think she was my eye-opening experience when it comes to BII, and I'll let her elaborate. And we're also joined with Jen, who is a patient who has had lupus for many years in her life. And I mean, lupus and breast implants so much controversy about breast implants causing lupus. And she actually serves as the other end of the spectrum, who has had lupus and has breast implants and is doing quite well. And the breast implants have not caused her lupus necessarily to exist and or worsen. So ladies, thank you for coming. I'm going to start with Jen first. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell me a little about your history, who you are, what you're about, and the implant story.
Well, all right. Like we said, my name is Jen. My lupus story goes back to, probably 13, 14 years old. But I didn't know it was lupus. I started to get sick. It was misdiagnosed as asthma and allergies. Progressively every year it became worse and worse and worse. They had me on asthma medication, which essentially was like speed and steroids. So everything was kept at bay. Come to out of college where you're no longer on your parents' insurance. I wasn't getting the steroid shots. I became even more sick, confused, extreme fatigue. But then when you're young, you don't know that it's not tired, it's actually fatigue. I would get pneumonia and pleurisy 3 times a year. I was just so used to being sick and never questioned my doctor or to advocate for myself. Cut to 27 years old, I got my boobs. And I'd say right about then is when I stopped doing the steroid shots every 6 months. So I got increasingly ill.
Jen, can I interrupt you for 1 second? So here you are, you're a 27-year-old girl. You have all these illnesses. You've been suffering, and obviously the average person today, and this goes back years ago, but today would say, oh my God, you're not feeling well. Why on earth would you put this poisonous crap into your body? So what were you thinking? What was your thought process? What was the information available to you then? What were you concerned about at the time? Because what happens is you're talking about a period of time where we didn't have what maybe the knowledge or the awareness or the concerns we have today. So what was your thought process then?
Using all those words, awareness, concerns, and thought process, I did not have at that age. At that age, I was working in music, and I had what I called tipples before. They were nipples with a hint of tit, so like they were super small, and was always a little tomboy or whatever. And I was dating someone, and one day randomly, I looked at him and I said, "I think I want boobs." His response being, "I'll pay for them." 10 days later, I had boobs. That's the thought process that went into that. But apart from to answer the being sick and I had all these illnesses, to me, everybody was that sick. I wasn't going through anything different than everybody else was. My natural assumption is that's just what happens in life. I didn't think.
Fair enough. So at the time, there wasn't any discussion like, well, holy crap, you're really not doing well. Do we really want to put these things in there? Which now, of course, is a dialogue all the time, but fair enough. So move forward. And so you got your breast augmentation at 27 and stopped getting the injections. And next thing you know, things are spiraling.
Oh, yeah. I'd say right about 30 is when I was under an extreme amount of stress and like a few different traumas that have happened. And then I was, I got out of music and went into fitness, and I was teaching 12 spin classes a week, and my ego wouldn't let me not ride. And I did a whole different life. And the memory loss I was having, the fatigue, the night blindness, all of that, I was seeing so many different doctors that they were giving you different things for different symptoms. And I wasn't recognizing there was one main cause until I had seizures, like I said, the night blindness, the fatigue, the joint pain. They kept saying, "Oh, you're teaching too much. This is what happens when you get older." I don't want to say I was dismissed. And then maybe at the time had quite the nightlife, so that always came into play. And then I would get welts. Like I would if I ate even a banana, I would get welts all over the place. And then I told one of my friends how sick I was. I wasn't telling anybody. And she looked right at me, saw the welts on my face, and she's had cancer a couple times. She looked at me and said, "You have lupus. Go to the doctor. Don't leave until they give you the lupus test." Right about then, I got that test back. I got tested. I had lupus. From that point, I started to remedy the way I ate, not trying to fight fatigue, just kind of working with it instead of against it.
Sure. You had a diagnosis and you knew what it was, and it helps to have a diagnosis from which to work from. And then at what point did they have the conversation, which is inevitable? Hey, maybe these implants, obviously you had lupus prior to the implants.
Yeah. And both grandmothers on both sides died of complications of lupus, but my family is not close. So it didn't register that maybe that would be it. So actually a friend of mine, when I said, "Oh, I have lupus," she goes, "Oh, because of your boobs?" And that's when it hit me. And then I went to my doctor and they said, "Oh, well, that very well could be that. That could be that. But you could either take them out." But at that time, that doctor was also telling me to get why am I forgetting the word? To have all my ovaries and to get everything taken out, because that could help I don't know why I'm forgetting the word right now. And so I said, okay.
Hysterectomy?
Yes. God, thank you. Sorry. It's the brain fog.
No worries.
And then I started being like, okay. And at that time it was a financial thing. Do I have the money to take my boobs out? So really I was like, let's go fix eating, fix the sleeping, back off on your schedule and remedy all these things. And I also wasn't taking any medication. I managed lupus by vitamin therapy, sleep, and what have you. And I really just wanted to make sure before I took them out. Correct. And cut to, that was 8 years ago with a proper diagnosis, to a year. About a year ago, I was having massive issues, and where I thought they were different issues than lupus, where I thought this quite possibly could be my boobs. I was having extreme anxiety, bouts of like paranoia, extreme joint pain. The confusion was worse. Come to find out, I had a hormonal imbalance. I had 0.1 left of progesterone, 2 of testosterone, and that was my last thing, where if that didn't remedy the situation, I was going to get my boobs taken out, because I fixed everything else. That this has to be it. 3 months after seeing that doctor to regulate my hormones, I'm fine. Like, I have minimal issues, and then the pandemic hit and I haven't been around people, and I'm health-wise flourishing.
Yeah. So your story is one of, and the reason why I thought this particular podcast is useful is because in general, nobody knows the answer to this question. All we do is we have these stories, anecdotal stories of individual people like you guys, and we're trying to put them together at the same time, try to do some good science. And so what your story tells is a story of one direction, whereas Courtney's story tells a story of another direction, which then creates the understanding of why there's so much confusion. So your story says, I have these illnesses. I got breast implants, or arguably I didn't know any better. And by all conventional wisdom, the implant should have come out because I was sick and I couldn't find a solution. But let's say dumb luck or lack of finances or whatever, I never took them out. And I kind of kept persevering. And I finally got to the bottom of my medical conditions, only to find out, what do you know? My breast implants are not the cause of my illnesses. And rather, I feel amazing. And remember, these are not mutually exclusive. And I feel still feminine, and I like my breast implants, and I feel like it makes me attractive. So you represent the one end of the spectrum where we're saying, and this is what the spectrum had been for years, is there's no BII, this whole autoimmune mumbo jumbo, implants don't cause this. There's 95%, there's 20 million plus women. If this was a major issue, gosh, you know how many millions of women would be ill? Millions, but they're not. And we do it for breast cancer, and we do this to the other. And I think your story reiterates a little bit of the traditional approach, which is, look, there are other reasons that make you sick, and it isn't your implant. Okay, so that's why we have you on, and you're so powerful, is because you actually have lupus, and you actually were about to take them out, and you actually took a bunch of other routes, and you actually feel amazing. So great. But when we come back, we're going to talk to Courtney, who's going to have the other half of the spectrum, and why this is so useful is because she's going to be the exact opposite and talk to us about how she didn't feel good. And then when she did take out the implant, she feels amazing. And I think that's going to be really, really interesting juxtaposition. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back, and then we'll dive into Courtney's story. So definitely stay tuned for the second half of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. All right, welcome back from the break. We are tackling BII, breast implant illness, and we just had a very interesting rendition from Jen regarding her life experience. Now let's talk to Courtney. Courtney, so thank you for being on, and tell me a little about your story and where your life coincides with breast implants.
Yeah, hi, I'm happy to be here. So for me, it was just about 1.5 years ago that I had you do my implants, and it's something that I had wanted since I was in high school, and nearing 40 years old after 3 kids and breastfeeding and being super athletic most of my life, and not having much up top. I really just wanted to enhance, my features. And completely just, I think it was 6 weeks into having them that was hit with really hard, really fast with multiple symptoms, the worst of them being migraine that never went away.
So let's a little bit. I'm going to give a little bit of introduction to your story, and then you can.
Yeah.
So you came to me. You're a super fit, amazing shape mom. How many kids do you have?
3.
3 beautiful children. You're the classic candidate for breast augmentation. You're in great shape. You've done all your things. You breastfed. Your breasts were lost volume. We did a standard silicone augmentation. There was no major complications. Everything went great. And then I remember you didn't tell me at first because we didn't put the two together. I only found out that you were having symptoms later because, of course, why would you connect I'm having migraines to my breast implant? That wouldn't be the immediate connection. So the first symptom you had was the migraine. So go on and tell me at 6 weeks you started having these headaches, and then go on and tell me what else happened then.
It was just sort of a domino effect. After that, it was ringing in my ears. My skin started breaking out. My hair started falling out. And it was crazy. And I went to every kind of doctor that I could think of, did every kind of test imaginable, did blood tests, had a CT scan. I was sure I had a brain tumor. That's how much pain I was in. And on paper, I looked perfectly healthy. And so I was kind of told this is all in my head. And after literally trying everything that I could possibly do with diet, I did iron transfusions, I did, you name it. I had to believe that it was from something else and that my body just was not responding well to having, a foreign body in it. So that's when I finally came to you and, we had that discussion about taking them out.
Right. And I think the thing is this. I think that for patients who are on your end of the spectrum, it's very scary and frightening. You have all these symptoms, right? And they're sort of non-related. They would call them constitutional or generalized symptoms: fatigue, memory loss, joint pains, aches. They're very vague, but very impactful, but not specific. And you go to these random doctors because your headache is a neurologist, your joint pain is a rheumatologist, right? And you're all over the place. Nobody knows what the hell is wrong with you because it's not like, hey, I have, I don't know, my sugars are elevated. It's not so simple. And you do this song and dance, and more times than not, they never figure it out. And in your instance, you're kind of left with this sort of, am I crazy or is this, and of course, I've been in practice for 15 years. Half of my practice is somehow related or connected to some kind of breast. So I've had many, many patients come to me over the years, and I've had a lot of patients come in who claim to have BII, and I don't know them. I didn't put in their implants. I don't know anything about the situation. And of course, it's everyone's prerogative. If you want to remove your implants, by all means, but you need to be very well aware of the consequences. Mm-hmm. And so why we're having this dialogue is just removing your implants isn't that big a deal, but the ramifications, the saggy breast, the loss of volume, all the things that come with a decision like that cannot be taken lightly. And you want to make sure that the decision you're making is coming from a good place. Now, a lot of the people in the groups online are very aggressive about their anti-breast implant manifesto. And I think that as a cause, BII, I think the approach is a little bit, in my opinion, backfiring. Because the conversation should not be breast implants are poison, remove them from market. How could women be doing this themselves when you are overwhelmingly in the minority? The conversation should be is, I don't know about you people, but it's causing me problems. And I believe a subset of individuals, it's not ideal for them. And that is a dialogue that became notable to me with you as my patient, because I actually put in your implants. You actually are super educated, calm. You went through all the process, and I actually witnessed it firsthand. And the one thing you had in conjunction, remember you had severe capsular contracture. Your breast implants were super hard very quick. Now, that isn't always a correlation, but that was reflective of the fact that your body was definitely not having a good time with the implants. And so I asked of you, I said, listen, I'll remove the implants for you, but I ask of you this favor. I need you to seriously document these symptoms week after week and tell me really what happens. to your ringing and your headaches and your whatever. And you said, absolutely, I'll do it. And sure enough, what we did was we removed your implant and we removed the scar tissue, which is, they always say remove M block and remove the scar tissue. And luckily your breasts were, if there's ever a breast to remove an implant in and for it to go back to look the same, it was yours, because we put a very small implant in. You're the like ideal patient. Most patients, we remove the implants, I guarantee you're not going to be happy. Mm-hmm. And then sure enough, what happened to you once you removed the implants?
Pretty much every symptom went away. It took, like, the ringing in my ears took a week, I would say. I think as the inflammation kind of went down, but immediately no headaches. My eyes are feeling normal. We were evacuated, and I was alone with my kids and my dogs, and I got through that no problem. Even after having them removed 4 days later, I felt like, a new person. I wish that wasn't the case. I was so happy with the way that they looked, but I definitely was the minority. And I have no doubt in my mind that it was, I was the classic case of BII.
Right. So what do we learn from this conversation? What's the take-home message? The take-home message, and the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, because at the end of the day, whose responsibility is this? It's the doctor's responsibility. It's the medical community. It's our responsibility to figure this out and put the pieces together. Patients are patients. That's why we have doctors. And what we need to do is, historically, what we would say to someone like you is, you're crazy. I mean, not historically, even currently, we say you're crazy, because the reality is that, again, you're in the minority. And look, we have patients like Jen. She did amazing. She's proof that lupus and BII are unrelated. I mean, she has lupus, severe, horrible lupus. She looks great. She's a beautiful woman, functioning and she's thriving. But what I wanted to discuss, and why I think it's important to have this conversation, is just like everything else, there is always going to be a subset of individuals who are going to react differently to different things. And my take-home message from you was, okay, I do believe today that BII is real. I don't know how much I understood it before you, but I definitely think it's real. And I definitely think that there is a small but real minority of women in whom, when they have a foreign material, pacemaker, prosthetic knee, heart valve, breast implant, their body will see that foreign material, as does everyone's body, including Jen's, will create a scar tissue capsule around it in an effort to protect you, as does in every human being, except it never relinquishes. And a normal person's body sees something foreign, makes a wall around it, scar tissue, and calls it a day. Says, I did my job, this thing is protected, I'm all done. In people with BII, my suspicion is that that body, that mechanism, that inflammatory system never shuts off. It's just constantly trying to get rid of this thing. And it's recruiting so much resources towards getting rid of this big item in your chest that it siphons all of your energy and creates all kinds of havoc in your body. And I think those individuals are just a subset. And the reality is, we currently don't know how to predict why you and not her. Is there a test we can take? Is there a skin test? No. There's no way to know. Maybe in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we'll do a serum test, and we'll know that women who are prone to it have this particular antibody, blah, blah, blah. But right now, we don't know. But what we do know is it is the overwhelming minority. And so what I wanted to discuss is, I don't think either end of the spectrum currently is correct. This idea of taking patients like you and just ignoring you like, oh, she's crazy, she's all whacked out, is absolutely not correct, because I do believe it's true. But at the same time, I caution the group of women who are on a crusade to remove implants off the market because they are poison and we're killing women, and how come women have to do this? And this whole banter is inappropriate, because we know evidence-wise that the overwhelming majorities find breast implants by their own choice to be helpful, beneficial, and adjunctive to their lives. My sister had a double mastectomy. She got her breast implants. Well, oh no, but in those instances, so I see. So it's different no. Every woman, mature, can make her own choice. But this notion that the cause is greater than the actual people. And what it's doing, and I think, is it's creating actually it's a disadvantage to that group of women. So I commend you, because why I wanted you on the show was because you're a very level-headed individual who said, yeah, it sucked. I would have loved to have fuller breasts. It would have been nice. It would have been a nice adjunct. I'm in shape. My husband loves me. It's not going to define me, but it would have been awesome. Didn't work out. And that's a right approach to it. And if we have these kind of conversations, maybe we'll make some progress. But right now it's pretty polarized. It's kind of very one side or the other. Jen, any thoughts on that subject matter at all, since you are the poster child for, oh, I have lupus and my implants are great. Any thoughts on now that hearing this other end of it from a patient?
Well, I guess prior to pandemic, it was time to get mine redone. So I was going to hedge my bets. I was going to see and speak to someone about getting them redone, but I heard you can get the fat reserves and then put them in. One of my friends was very sick and got hers taken out and then just got a bunch of fat put in there. So I was going to hedge my bets, but then I'm not sick. So I finally decided when I get mine redone that I'm just getting.
So that was a perfect question. And so the concept is, there's a whole segment of society now, and doctors are, I'm sorry, but they're making money off this. They're calling themselves BII experts and explant experts. And whenever there is vulnerability, there will be wolves. And so doctors are just making money hand over fist. And they're going into these platforms and they're basically fanning the fire, saying, oh yes, you know, if you want to take it out, I'm an expert. And I actually have women calling my office asking me if I'm an expert in BII nonsense. I mean, that means that the marketing is working. And so what it is the question is this. So these are your options. If you have BII and you think your implant is causing you disease and you want to remove it. So one option is removing the implant. Next option is removing the implant and the scar tissue around it, which is what I think you should do. It's called a capsulectomy and an implant removal. There's nothing magical about that. I've been doing that for 15 years prior to any of this crap. They call it en bloc in the groups because it's got a fancy name and it makes people love the idea. And en bloc is something we use in cancer treatment, meaning we remove the entirety of everything, including all the surrounding tissue. It's a breast implant removal plus a capsulectomy. That I agree. The question then becomes, what the hell do I do with my breast at that point? And it all depends on what kind of breast you have. What you're referring to, Jen, is fat transfer. And I think that that's actually very misleading. What you do is you take out the implant. Then what you do is you liposuction your full body. Then you take the fat, then you spin it, then you prepare it, much like they do for the butt, and you inject it in the breast. And of course, fat in the breast has now been proven to be helpful and it works. And I don't think it'll come anywhere close to the aesthetic outcomes of what you have currently. Majority of the breast, the fat that you inject, most of it or a lot of it will disappear because it's not going to be alive. And at the end, I think you will end up being like, wow, I feel better, but my breasts don't look great. I think if the reality is that you are sick and indeed you believe your implants are causing it, much like breast cancer, well then just do whatever you need to do. There's no price to pay for your health. None. No vanity ever. My sister had a double mastectomy. It's not like she's like, oh God, my husband this. No, she had a double mastectomy. End of discussion. But if you are just doing it because it's bandwagony, which is my fear, you're going to regret it. Because you're going to jump into this, you're getting siphoned into this circle of poison, love yourself, blah, blah, blah. You take out your implants, you go do this breast lift with fat injection, and then all of a sudden you have this unattractive appearance, and now you're left with that in sequelae. And guess what? You never did have BII, and you don't feel any better. Now what? So caution is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you are crazy, and I'm not saying you shouldn't remove it. I'm just saying be ready for the consequence. And if indeed it is making you sick, well then hell, it's well worth it. At any rate, I think this was a really fascinating topic. You guys rock. Thank you for both participating. And I'm sure we're going to have another conversation about this. I am certain we're going to get tons of questions about this, and I'm going to bring you guys on again and again. You're my panel.
Thank you.
Any parting comments, Courtney, regarding this BII experience for you?
I just consider myself grateful that I figured it out and that you were able to help me, and, you know, can walk away from it knowing that I did the right thing for
Good.
me.
I'm glad. And I'm happy that you're feeling better. Anyways, that's going to wrap up another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Thank you all for joining us. Make sure to tune in next week, as I'm sure whatever we're talking about is going to be interesting.